Today we're talking about men's health and specifically drinks that are going to support your prostate. So if you re a man or you love a man and you want to take care of his prostate, this video is for you. If you're new here, welcome. I'm a doctor. I am a urologist and pelvic surgeon. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. The prostate is a walnut-shaped organ that sits around the urethra or the P-tube that carries urine from the bladder. As men age, the prostate can get bigger and cause a number of symptoms like difficulty urinating, straining a weak stream, and sometimes even pain in the area between the scrotum and the anus, which could be referred pain from the prostate itself. Now we call this condition benign prostatic hyperplasia, and it's very common. In fact, by the age of 80, about 70 to 80% of men will have some sort of enlargement of the prostate. And while it's not dangerous, it can be really annoying. So today, I am going to talk about the best drinks that you can have to help support prostate health. The first thing to avoid is dairy products. Now, dairy products are often touted as being good for our bones and strong bones, but it may not be great for your prostate. There was actually a study that looked at over 47,000 men who were over the age of 40, and what they found was that those who consumed more dairy actually had an increased risk of having high-grade prostate cancer. In fact, it was about 29% higher in those who consumed the most amount of dairy versus those who consumed the least. And when they looked at those who had already been diagnosed with prostate cancer, those who consumed more dairy actually had worse outcomes. Now, does this mean you need to completely avoid dairy? No, but if you do have a family history of prostate cancer, maybe you want to limit your dairy intake. No. 2 is tomato juice. Now, tomatoes contain something called lycopene, which is a carotenoid or a pigment that gives fruits and vegetables a red color. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant and has been associated with many health benefits. Now you may be saying, well, how do I know that? Well, there has been a number of studies that have looked at people who consume diets high in lycopene, and they've seen lower rates of things like heart disease, certain types of cancers including stomach cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, as well as skin cancer. Now, when we look at prostate cancer specifically, there's been a number of studies that have found that higher levels of lycopene in the blood are correlated with less aggressive prostate cancer. In fact, one study looked at nearly 7,000 men, and they found that those who had the highest tomato consumption, which would correlate with higher levels of lycopene in their body, had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer. Another study looked at almost 45,000 men and again found that those who consumed the most tomatoes had a lower risk of aggressive prostate cancer. In addition, consuming lycopene has also been shown to improve urinary symptoms in those who have an enlarged prostate, as well as decrease the risk of getting an antibiotic for an acute bacterial prostatitis. Now, importantly, you need to understand that these are observational studies. So we can't say for sure that eating tomatoes or drinking tomato juice prevents prostate cancer or improves symptoms from an enlarged prostate. However, given the large amounts of data that we have on tomatoes and lycopene and its association with many different types of cancers as well as other chronic diseases, it's probably not a bad idea to incorporate tomatoes into your diet. And specifically, it is important to note that cooking tomatoes actually increases the amount of lycopene that is available for absorption. So tomato sauce or tomato soup might be better options than raw tomatoes. Also, if you're going to consume tomato juice, try to avoid ones that have added sugar or excessive amounts of sodium. No. 3 is green tea. Green tea is often touted as being great for weight loss, great for your overall health. But did you know it's also good for your prostate? Green tea contains something called epigallocatechin gallate, or EGCG. This has been shown to be associated with decreasing inflammation in the body. And EGCG in particular has been shown to prevent the growth of prostate cancer cells in a number of studies. Now, while there's no substitute for exercise and a healthy diet, One study looked at men who were overweight and obese, and they found that those who consumed green tea had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer. So definitely consider adding green tea into your daily regimen. No. 4 is watermelon juice. Watermelon juice is another great option. Why? It contains citrulline. Citrulline is an amino acid that helps your body make arginine. Arginine helps to relax smooth muscle cells, including those in the prostate and the blood vessels that supply the penis. So it can help with urination and also potentially help with erectile function. In fact, a study of men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction who took citrulline supplements had improvement in their erectile function. We're not exactly sure if this translates to watermelon juice. You certainly can drink it, and if it helps your erections, great. However, you will need to drink quite a bit of watermelon juice to get the equivalent amount of citrulline that was given in that study. So just keep that in mind. Number 5 is coffee. Coffee. I know many of you are going to be happy about this one. I love my coffee. And yes, I am talking about coffee, just coffee. Don't put anything in it. No cream, no sugar, just coffee. A number of studies have looked at coffee consumption and prostate cancer risk, and they found that coffee drinkers have a lower risk of developing prostate cancer. In fact, one study looked at almost 30,000 men and found that those who drank 2 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee per day had a 21% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who didn't drink any coffee. And another study looked at over 46,000 men and found that those who drank 2 or more cups of caffeinated coffee per day had a 12% lower risk of aggressive prostate cancer. And lastly, a third study looked at over 29,000 men and found that those who drank 4 or more cups of caffeinated coffee per day had a 30% lower risk of high-grade prostate cancer. Now it's important to note that all these studies are observational, and they can't prove that coffee consumption actually prevents prostate cancer. However, given the consistency of the data, it probably doesn't hurt to have a cup or 2 of coffee per day. Also, keep in mind, if you're sensitive to caffeine, you may not want to drink that much, so try to keep it to 1 or 2 cups. And finally, the last thing to think about is alcohol. Alcohol consumption has been associated with an increased risk of many different cancers, including colorectal cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, as well as prostate cancer. So if you're going to drink alcohol, make sure you drink in moderation. For men, that's considered 2 drinks or less per day. Bottom line, there's no one drink that's going to cure your prostate or prevent you from ever developing prostate issues. However, making sure you have a healthy diet full of fruits and vegetables and avoiding processed meats and excessive alcohol consumption will help keep your prostate and your body healthy. If you're concerned about your prostate health, make sure you see your primary care doctor or urologist and get checked out. And always remember to take care of yourself because you're worth it.